In 1986, I was 21 and taking a year off college due to lack of funds, living in my aunt and uncle's basement in Bothell, Washington, and working a swing shift job at a company that installed overhead fire prevention sprinkler systems in large buildings. So I would fabricate the pipe. I would do a lot of work on a machine to thread the pipe and cut them to the proper lengths and get these big jobs ready to go out to large construction sites. And by day, I fancied myself a poet. I would roam the streets of Seattle or ride my bike down the Burke-Gilman Trail from Bothell down to the U District in Seattle, which was a nice bike ride. Maybe go to the university bookstore. But one day I was sitting in my aunt and uncle's basement, and I had some scratch paper out, and I had in mind to write a poem about Amelia Earhart. So I started to scribble some lines on the paper about Amelia and thought about it, wrote some, thought some more, wrote some more, and eventually it seemed to be going nowhere, so I crumpled up the paper and threw it in the garbage and reached over to the radio, which was up on a shelf just near where I was sitting, and I flipped the radio on, and by an odd coincidence, there was a Joni Mitchell song playing on the radio that I'd never heard before called Amelia. And the refrain of the song, it's quite a wonderful song. Later I bought the album and it became one of my favorite albums. But that was the first time I'd heard it. It was on the radio right after I'd been trying to write this poem about Amelia Earhart. And the refrain was, Amelia, it was just a false alarm. So I thought that was kind of funny, just a funny little coincidence. The kind of a cosmic joke at my expense, which I appreciated. And so later on, I was writing a letter to a girl that I was interested in, Kayleen, back at college, and I told her about this, that I had this funny, coincidental, cosmic little joke played on me. And a couple days later, I got a letter back from Kayleen saying, I came home from a run, got the mail, went up to my room, put my Joni Mitchell album on the stereo, and opened your letter and read your account of the Amelia poem right after I had heard that same song on my record player. And so it was funny that, you know, the cosmic joke seemed to be perpetuating like circles from a pebble thrown in a pond, as if my little Amelia pebble was reverberating out, and the coincidence and the cosmic joke was expanding beyond my little world. So that was the end of part one of the story, this letter from Kayleen telling me that the coincidence had perpetuated itself in her experience. But then now fast forward to the year 2012, I believe it was. I was hosting a poetry open mic on the campus of Washington State University and Eastern Washington University in Spokane, the River Point campus. I had this lunchtime literary open mic called Naked Lunch Break. And at one of these, I told this same story that I've just told you about the funny coincidence with the Amelia poem. And then that was early on in the hour, or the hour and a half of this thing. And towards the end of that hour, some people got up and read, and we'd come to the end of the hour, and one of the regular readers showed up late, and she hadn't heard me tell this story, but she came in, and I said, "Oh, hey, we're about to finish, but would you like to come up and read something?" And she said, "Oh yeah, I happen to have something. I'd like to share it." And so she came up and she read a poem about Amelia Earhart. So the Amelia effect, those ripples in the pond that started in 1986 reverberated all the way out to 2012 or thereabouts. And maybe that was the end of it, but about a year, maybe 2 years later, I went to fundraiser sort of thing where artists and poets collaborated, and then they would sell the products of their collaboration. And one of these collaborations resulted in this beautiful print of a poem, and when I read the poem, I had to buy it, and it now hangs in my office. I won't try to recite the whole poem to you, but about halfway down the poem, there's a line that says, "This is the Amelia poem." So there we have it again. These strange cosmic reverberations from 1986, and who the hell knows what's going on with that, but it makes life interesting. Thanks for